I want to start off by really asking about the future of Hong Kong. What will the future of Hong Kong look like in the next, whether it's the next till 120, living to 120, or in the next 5 years? So I want to start that question with Peter Yan, CEO of Cyberport, talking about, in your view, and Cyberport also has been with us for almost 2 decades.
Yes.
And congratulations on that. So tell us, what do you think the future will look like, and what would you like it to look like?
Okay, that's actually a very, very good question. I think it probably cannot be more telling than the forum survey, itself. With I think 2 years down the road, consistently highlighting that the aging population, climate or environmental changes, and also technological changes, and also economic inequalities being the top, few future changes that, if I remember correctly, is about the future to 2050. Yeah. So I think these are also very much reflected in Louis' speech and also Jennifer's speech just now. These are definitely, I think, quite real now, and we have to handle this. They are definitely challenges, but it's also an opportunity, especially in the area of education and learning. A recent a study or survey by the Invest Hong Kong revealed that there is actually a substantial increase in the startup community, in Hong Kong. Compared to 2018, there is over 50% increase. I think it's 52 or 50, 52% increase from 2018 to 3,900 something companies, startup companies. And among them, more importantly, I think 319 of them are actually related to education and learning. So this reflects actually a more thriving, emerging economy related to education and learning, and people are actually pursuing this to reflect the needs of the market. So we need to do better education, especially with the aging population. We have to make use of also technology to make education and learning more effective, more also attractive, to the younger generation as well as the aging population. Actually, there are about 180 education technology-related companies within Cyberport. So among the 1,900 something communities size of Cyberport as a whole. So it's not a small percentage, it's around 10%, of all the companies that we have are related to education technology. There is also another thing reflected from the survey, which also, again, is very important, which becomes a universal value now, is about climate change and sustainability. I think this is also something that we can see in the future that will be a common value that we need to properly educate people to live with this situation and to make sure that everything that we do has a perspective of sustainability. So this is what I feel will be the future, and I would like to see technology being properly integrated to facilitate education and also the promotion of sustainability value through these technological changes or education and learning. So that's what I see the future will happen, and also what I would like to see things being happen. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Peter. I'm going to go down that order and then direct the next question to Christine, Christine Ip, CEO at UOB Greater China. And because one of the things that I wanted to talk to you from your perspective as the head of a business leader, in terms of also familiar with banking and so on. And UOB is a bank from Singapore, all of that. But what's kind of your perspective in terms of what do you think are some of the strengths of Hong Kong's educational system, or weaknesses, if there is any?
Yeah.
Maybe doing compare contrast if you can.
Okay, maybe let me state very clearly, I'm a Hong Konger. Okay, I'm not Singaporean. So, but I work for a Singapore bank, and I was born here, I grew up here, I was educated here, and including my master's degree. Yeah. So, but I work in different international banks, and now with the Singapore bank. But actually, I would like to, based on what Alice mentioned, and also related to what Peter. Actually, I just came before this forum from another forum where Paul Chen was there. We have our Hong Kong Association of Banks forum. Originally, John Lee supposed to be here, our chief executive, but unfortunately, you know why. And ends up it's Paul addressing us about also talent, also about our future. And I would say that Hong Kong, which I call home myself, we are a financial center. All along, the rest of Asia is very proud of and really envy Hong Kong, look upon us like that. But I would say that, and we all know that, and according to a lot of the researchers, because of the things happening in the last few years, the pandemic, the delay in terms of opening, we really significantly experience loss of talents. It's to the rest of the world. And it's very challenging. So just then we talk about with all the good education that Hong Kong have and so on, but still we have a net outflow of talents. And it's extremely difficult to attract. From all the CEOs from banks, we talk about it for the last 1 year. These are the challenges. But I would like to, because of that, I would like to tell you that related to the question you mentioned, the benefit, the good thing about Hong Kong education is in the past, we have a very thorough base of skills-based training, skill-based. And very technical, you got very good engineering folks, you got very good financial bankers, you have mathematicians, we have doctors, we have lawyers, all are professionals. And our output, our quality is of the top notch. I can call it, and I've never shared that before, this is the first time, okay? When Hong Kong now cannot open, I actually received a lot of my counterparts in London, in New York office, saying that, Christine, if your young people would like to explore the rest of the world, in addition to Singapore, please come to New York and London. Then I asked, for New York, for Hong Kong, you need to apply what we've observed for my staff. No problem. I like the mindset, the output, the quality, and the way the Chinese write, Hong Konger learn English, your grammar is so good. So you know what I mean? Even the natives, they said, cannot compare against those. So I think this is the good thing about education in Hong Kong. But the challenge is, I think we are now playing catch up. And even in the budget review, when we talk about it, it's all catching people, okay, 搶人, okay, 搶人. So to me, I felt that if we continue to think about a catch-up mode, and I don't like to compare Hong Kong versus Singapore. Singapore is a country, we are a city, we are part of China, and we should have a bigger hinterland that representing China and facing the rest of the world. Singapore is a small country, and that's why for survival, they have to be very innovative. And they used to be very skills-based as well. But I think the last few years, they tried to go into a lot of digitization, fintech. We have fintech week. They also have fintech week. They actually have fintech week before us, the last few years. So I need to ask ourselves, are we just trying to compare ourselves against Singapore, which is a country themselves, standalone? For us, we actually is a much bigger Northeast Asia financial center. Should we transform ourselves, reimagine ourselves, rather than catch up? So I would say that going forward, instead of skills-based, we need to be solution-based, I believe every single one of our students need to learn some form of data, despite they may not be very good at science, but unfortunately, this is the world forward, and they have to. But the other thing is also related to the fact that a lot of people ask why UOB as a bank really support art, especially we are not just supporting the high-end art. I support the young people, emerging artists, education in the art space, art therapy. Why? Because I believe that creativity, solutioning, and that's the way forward. Skills you can learn from all the top-notch university. I see Jennifer here. You always help a lot of good students get into top schools. But what differentiates a country, a city, or a financial center is whether we have people that be able to forward-thinking, have the creative mindset, and solution-based. And I think art, and right now, in addition to be a financial center, that to be a cultural exchange hub in Hong Kong, it's so critical. And that's why museum, that's why we have M+, we have the Palace Museum. And I hope Hong Kong can really transform.
Thank you, Christine. That was really very powerful, and I couldn't agree with you more about the importance of the arts and also kind of the talent pipeline. I think as an institution, Asia Society, and I'm sure Louis is the same, the talents. In 1 year, I've lost 3 young, talented staff, all graduated from local schools, and after a year working with us, they were attracted to go to Australia, UK, and Canada. And as much as I try to keep them, I couldn't. So that's one of the challenges I think that we have as a city, and also part of GBA and part of China have to think about how do we keep our young people and how do we train. And one of the things that I firmly believe is in really mentorship and also internship and fellowship. So that's something we're going to be working on. So I think on that topic, I now want to turn over, I'm going to say Winston for last, but I'm going to turn over to the Honorable Duncan Chu, Legislative Council member, Technology Innovation and Constituency, to kind of talk about some of that, because in light of the Chief Executive's recent policy speech, who placed quite a lot of emphasis on tech and innovation, it's really exciting to hear, shortly after he became chief executive, to have so much focus on technology as well as the arts and culture. But what you, as the Legislative Council, what do you think areas that we in Hong Kong and maybe even GBA can enhance and improve in terms of the talent and in terms of growth for the future?
Yeah, thanks, Alice. In terms of the policy address, I have to say that I had publicly, admit that we at the tech innovation sector are quite happy with what's covered in the latest policy address. A lot of the suggestions from the industry were taken in. And, going back to the question you raised about education, I think I have to admit with the previous speakers about several points. I'm also a member of a hospital authority. I think we did publish a report last year that the population of elderly people, people above 65 years old, was 1.3 million last year. It's going to be 2.6. 13 years later, 2036. So we're going to double our elderly population. Birth rate, we are at one of the lowest time. And so I think this is the fact that we're going to see. And with the last 20 years, everyone know what happened in technology. I think internet and digital lifestyles change every people's way of living. But I look into my kids' textbook. It's actually the same as what we had 20 years ago. So I think there must be something wrong. That are we preparing our kids ready for the next future? And we had a big gap in how we prepare our next generation. And now we're going into Web 3.0, which is another new era in technology. And if we keep on doing the same thing, are we doing enough? So that's one big thing that we raised to the chief executive about how we could better educate, better prepare our next generation. We want more emphasis in school, primary school, secondary school, having more resources for school to hire, let's say, tech-related teacher. Because, you know, we are all talking about a big outflow of talent. And in technology sector is, I think, one of the most serious sector that we have a big outflow of tech talents. So that also impact the schools. I heard a lot of schools, they have difficulty hiring, you know, tech-savvy teachers. So they have to have people, a teacher teaching maybe Chinese or other classes to help also teach some of the STEM class, which is a new thing for the teacher herself. So we need more resources for the school to hire, you know, talent people or people that actually know tech, what is coming in tech to teach their students. I think also we need a new mindset in the Education Bureau, the EDB, because, you know, previously, you know, if you're talking about Chinese lessons, English, you know, possibly the syllabus, you doesn't have to change every year. You can possibly use it for 10 years, 15 years, it just have some revision, you know. But for tech, if you revise 1 year later, it's not relevant anymore. So you need a whole new vetting system in the Bureau about, you know, how they do the syllabus, textbooks, how you keep update, how you make sure the students that you prepare, you trained, they will be up to date in terms of tech talents. And the problem with Hong Kong is, you know, even our tech people in Hong Kong previously, a lot of them maybe, you know, they are not, I wouldn't say we're not having the skill set trained, but a lot are management people. You know, even in our tech community, it's not technician people, it's all management people. Not all, but a lot. So in terms of, you know, people with basic tech skills, coding, fundamental research capability, data scientists, I think we need them in big number, and together with the outflow, you know, that's a big problem for us. So we all know that, you know, central government, mainland give us big hope or a very important role in building the role of a technology international center, as in the 14th five-year plan. And we hope to attract a lot of research talents, professors globally, you know, basic research capabilities into Hong Kong. But we need a bigger labor force than what we have now. So there's a big gap we have to fill, not just for, you know, the training system, education system, preparing the youngsters, but in the next 5 years, we see a big gap in tech talents that we have to do. So there has to be reskilling, retooling. We have to have import of talent, you know, right after we have the border reopen. So there's a big chunk we have to fill. So that's why in the policy address, I said, we see some outline there. We have some talent import policies, and we have the 搶人才, right? We have to attract talents to Hong Kong. And, you know, there are many works we have to do ahead. But, I mean, that basically I just putting the summary of what's happening now. But there's a lot we have to do next.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Angan. Now I wanted to kind of turn the stage to a question asking about the interdisciplinary learning. One of the things that, before I get to my question for Winsome, CEO of Hong Kong Arts Development Council. I think the area of creativity, I think Christine talked about it. I think we all have kind of talked about it. And one of the things, as an observer, I've been back in Hong Kong now 11 years, but in the time I was in New York, I was really amazed at some of the talents and stuff, the things that are coming out of Hong Kong. In fact, I know at Winsome you're getting ready to go to ISBA in New York in January, where it's a gathering of arts administrators, and I know people like Tisa has been chairing that. And what's really exciting to see as an Asian American is really the talents coming out of Asia, or the highlights, the focus on Asian themes, Asian content. If you look at Hulu, you look at Netflix, or books being published, and you know, I see Hong Kong talents. The other day, I think it was a week ago, Hong Kong Philharmonic, I think probably gave, I mean, people have been talking about the Vienna Philharmonic, but it was a Hong Kong Phil that just wowed everyone. I know Hong Kong Ballet is going to be in New York in January. I know tickets are going to be selling out. because of the reputation of Hong Kong ballet, and the list goes on and on. So I know we have talent. And I know they are being welcomed, kind of like what Christine said there earlier about colleagues in the West welcoming. So I think Winsome, as CEO of the of Arts Development Council, who really your job is promoting and being one of the biggest cheerleader, and I'm a big fan of yours because thanks to ADC we were able to commission our first ever chamber opera called Mila, sung in Tagalog, English, and Cantonese. And thanks to ADC, we were able to take it. We premiered it in Hong Kong at Asia Society, and we were able to take it to San Francisco and New York. So ADC, your job is really exciting, and it's especially in light of kind of the government, also the chief executive there, and also just the growing arts and cultural ecosystem. Nowhere, no city in the world can build 2 world-class museums. 2. Open 2 world-class museums in a period of 7 months, 6 months. Only Hong Kong. Palace, M+. Unfortunately, because of COVID, not a lot of international visitors yet, but come next year, I know they're all going to be here. So, but I think your job as the head of ADC, what is the most exciting and challenging part of your job in terms of promoting Hong Kong talent?
Yeah, thank you, Alice. I think first of all, I'm so glad to hear that from Christine how arts and culture is valued in our society, and actually, yes, for the first time in the Chief Executive Policy Address this year, art is now added to STEM education to become STEAM. Then why arts? Do we really want every student to learn maybe calligraphy or Monet or other things, ballet? I do think that arts and culture actually represents our soul and spirit. And for any successful city, not only in finance or maybe architecture, those things, but then for any city to be great, arts and culture is a must. It's one of the pillars that build the city, together. And then in arts and culture, I think sometimes it's not really what's in art form, maybe not really the hard knowledge of particular art forms that will be of reference to serve like interdisciplinary education. I think it's the processes that are happening in the arts, the approaches that we practitioners are taking would be of reference. For us, of course, the foundation must be the trust in humanity and human values. And so in ADC, this actually, in a way, it's the fundamental for all our activities, encompassing training, scholarships, and attachments for arts practitioners, or maybe in arts education for primary school, secondary school, and special schools. We use that as a base, but we also have to deal with challenges like the pandemic. I mean, I can tell you, in our very regular Arts Ambassador program, where each year we recruit more than 1,000 school kids to study different kinds of art. We make a piano, student to learn paintings or dyeing a cloth, something like that. we want them to learn new things, because in such a way, their aesthetic sense, it's heightened. And in the pandemic, we also observe that their proactiveness, it's also heightened, because sometimes they have to switch from physical learning or to online learning, and they have to share things online. And you have to believe in kids, in young people. You know, they learn so quickly. And then they can even, you know, show each other what they have done in the end of perhaps a training program. And then they will share, and they will do the editing and come up with another thing. And then that's actually, it's creativity. Without these pursuits, experiments, how can one, you know, talk about innovation or creativity? Because you have to give excitement. I think throughout the career of any arts worker, we never dispute the need of lifelong learning, because the arts simply is too big. It's too complicated sometimes. It's as big as a universe. And one cannot exhaust the entirety of the arts. So you really have to make your own personal choices. But in the course of it, how can one keep up the curiosity? And my job, and actually the job of my people in the ADC, it's to create the sense of excitement from time to time, so that the curiosity is kept on. For, let's say, our training and scholarship and attachment programs, we place young graduates into arts groups of all sorts. You know, from a film group to a visual arts organization, or maybe to a dance company, or Sichu, you know, Cantonese opera group. Then they have to work there and learn on the job for a year or two. And after some 6, 7 years, when they mature, they may come up, you know, with applications for scholarship programs where they can even get a master's degree. For those who cannot afford the time and resources, they may come and propose an attachment in an overseas organization, or some of the overseas partners that we have. Before the pandemic, we actually have partnership with Tate Modern in London, or the Mori Museum in Japan, or the National Art Strategies in the USA. And so after sort of like a recess, a compare recess for some years, then we are quite ready to resume our partnering, or maybe finding new partners and furthering, you know, this kind of attachment by sort of creating points of excitement. I think that is so important, that we as facilitators would be designing, and making it possible for them to see there is a pathway.
Okay.
Yeah, I think...
I'm going to need to cut you off a little bit, because we have Q&As coming in already, and we want to kind of give this, the audience, especially the online audience from Slido, an opportunity to ask questions. And I'm going to start off with this first one from Mr. So. Mr. So says, how can we as educators, help our students so that our students can easily adapt to the new era with the integration of Hong Kong and the Greater Bay Area? So with that, I'm going to maybe turn it over to Duncan to answer that question.
Well, I think experience, you know, real experience is the most important. You cannot just tell people what other city is like, you know, what other culture is like. You have to be actually be in it to actually understand, you know what that is like in GBA. So we've been actually been promoting a lot more cultural, not exchange, but really live experience for Hong Kong kids. in mainland cities, in GBA. In universities, one thing that we propose to the chief executive is having, let's say, have 4 years of university time. You have to have 1 year living in other cities in Greater Bay, either that be exchange program with other universities in mainland or whatsoever. Because, we have a lot of talents or young kids, they graduate from universities and say, hey, I want to build a startup, I want to go into tech, I want to go sell my stuff in mainland. But actually they have no experience there, they have no friend there, they have no circle in mainland. So, we bring them there, there's too much hand-holding. You just have to bring them to, understand the whole thing, but the mindset is totally local here. Where we have to admit, in GBA, other city, there is different way, in terms of, how you approach a problem, how you solve, how you deal with people, and the language, you have to be really fluent. So I think having more experience is definitely one thing, that real experience, not a 3-day trip, going there and go to some fancy restaurants and go to museum and back. Not that is a bad thing, but you have to really live there. You have to have a friend circle, and university is the best place. You live there. You grow with your friends, right? So when you want to build a startup, you want to find a job, you call someone in Guangzhou or Fusan and say, hey, is there, you want to partner something? Then you get someone you can talk to. So I think that's the most important thing.
Great. Peter, you have anything to add to that?
Yeah. I totally agree with what Duncan mentioned just now, and I think this is a very good question, actually. When it comes to education and learning, we often focus on the receiving end, how the students or the learner can learn more and facilitate that process. But then educator actually is very important, and to supplement on, or to add on to what Duncan mentioned just now, I would say is the mindset. With the modern world, a lot of things, going so fast, the pace is very different from it was before. So we can't stay as the old way of teaching. Educators shouldn't be teacher anymore. They should be learning facilitators. Yeah, because they are learning also themselves, because things are changing so fast. So you can't actually teach. And in going back to your earlier question about interdisciplinary studies or education, because things are now so complicated that you actually need people to work together, different disciplines. So if you are still staying on the teaching mode, you can't be a teacher in all different disciplines. Yeah. So you have to learn to facilitate learning by letting people to appreciate different disciplines working together, and that I think will probably facilitate or make education much more effective than just teaching.
Great, thank you, Peter, for that. This next question I'm going to maybe direct to Christine. This question comes, it asks, let's say by 2050. Which is worth more in terms of education? Is it skills, computer coding, STEM, or degree?
I think I addressed this question early on already. It's no more skills. Skills, you can just learn it from Google, the god of Google, okay, the god of YouTube. I don't understand why people still have problems studying history or contour. Actually, now everything you can just Google. Again, everything is come up. So I guess it's, I also disagree using STEM. STEM already imply you must need to have computer coding, which I mentioned about data. You need to know how to analyze data, even though you may not know how to create or do programming, but you need to understand, interpret data. So STEM is important, but we keep talking about arts, right? So if you only have your left brain working, your right brain not working at all, so that would be, this is today's problem because of COVID. A lot of our younger generation, the biggest problem is they don't know how to communicate because they no more talking to their fellow friends. So art is important to get together when they are disappointed. They draw, they express, they perform. I came back from Singapore for a global leadership conference. I tell you what, my boss, our group CEO and deputy chairman wants us to do, use 3 hours to learn ukulele. And not just learn, they required us to create a song and with lyrics. So they divided us from different groups, and within that 3 hours, I never imagined myself, even though I think I'm creative, but to be able to learn ukulele, we play some chords, and we create a song, and we talk about how to work as a team. And afterwards, then we talk about serious business numbers, how to meet our target next year. So I guess these are the things that creativity, that's why it's STEAM that make us important. Whether we need a degree, seriously, I don't think so. Yeah, just pick and go for a passion. Degree is just you can call it degree, you can call it diploma, you can call it a paper, a program. So it's up to you.
I think you have some really interesting point there. And one of the things I've noticed about communication, what you said is we have young interns. Another area is collaboration and curiosity. Some of them, because they know they can get information from Google and others, and they think they know everything.
They know better. They know more than us.
Yes. I don't know if those of you who, I do not have kids. I have a 9-year-old niece who is very cute and very curious about the world. And we're, I think right now there's no free time in her schedule. Parents are overscheduling. She's learning piano, she's learning violin, she's swimming, she's doing rugby, and she's only 9. Okay, and it doesn't help now that we have Olympic swimmers who are Asian, right? Or Olympic fencers, right? Parents out there, you know what I'm talking about. So, so one of the things that I'm just curious, and this is my question actually. It's about parents. Those of you who are parents may want to answer the question about what magic power would you endow your kids or tools for the future? I mean, my 9-year-old niece, she has the creativity, she has a lot of the energy and all that. I think she's going to be fine. But moving forward, I mean, we talked about living to be 120, right? All of that. So for those of you who have children, what do you wish for them to give them now? Or let's start them now. I want to give them the idea of collaboration. I think it's really important moving forward. I really, and especially in light of, look at what happened this last 3 years with COVID, how much, as much as we lived, with all the lockdown and all of the restriction, people are social animals, right? We need interaction. So no man is an island. But what do you guys, parents out there, or you have nieces and nephews, what do you wish for them? For the future.
Can I jump queue? I
Yes.
have a son 25 and a daughter 28. And my daughter went to Amazon to do ESG. And she was the first generation KOI, when no one's know what is that, 2014, when she studied in Toronto. So I guess just let her feel her dreams. She studied history. And then she had a postgrad in hospitality because she was a KOR. And then she went to do ESG, stay in Costa Rica alone. But she told me she know how to have self-defense. So she protect herself. So I guess my teaching to her is like, okay, go to feel your dream, but you know how to protect yourself. And the world is unlimited. At that juncture, I don't know what is KOR. And now she stops because she thinks that it's just too much pressure. She's now the head of ESG for Dorset Hospitality Group. And thank you to her boss, they believe in young people. And because she is very data-driven, and that's how she got a job. My son is in the other extreme, very conservative. He's a lawyer. And he now, originally working in Hong Kong, he got sent to London, but he's coming back. So I guess what I'm saying is that a boy and a girl, very different character, just let them do whatever they want. Originally, I want my son to work in Tencent, and he actually got an offer. But he said, I'm very conservative. I still think I want to live within boundaries instead of outside boundary in the tech world. Then I said, okay, so be it. Okay, provided you don't come back and ask me for money, you survive. Okay, let's go. Then he found his way out.
Okay, that's great advice. So, Duncan?
Okay, as a father of 4, I think I have the authority to share with you on this topic. So I tried and examined continuously, and for 4th trial, I can confirm you that as a daddy, you have no authority to wish for what your kids want to do. It's their wife, is actually that decide what they wish their kids to do. So don't attempt to do that, you will fail. So, what I do is basically I just take care of anything, they want outside of school. So whether it's sports or weekend activities, the rest is actually, I wish I had the authority to involve, but I'm not. So from my experience, I think I'm from a big family. I'm number 8 in my family. And I think my father, actually, he didn't actually teach me anything throughout my life. He didn't say, hey, you have to do this and that, not a thing. But I think in the end, we act a bit like our parents. So what you have to do is just, how you behave yourself, instead of telling them what to do. So I do things that I'm passionate in. I try to serve the community. I think I've been really busy, but I think my kids understand why. And, just trying to do yourself. And I think that's the best thing you can teach your kids.
Great advice. Peter?
Okay, yeah, I'm like Christine. I have 2 boys of similar age. I always encourage them to do whatever they want. Yeah, that's what I think we are in common, the 3 of us, yeah, so far, yeah. And I think that is very important, maybe is a very sort of a nice way of saying that I have no control, but just have to let them do it. Yeah, but then I think, that there is also a genuine intention to let them really go and explore the world. Because there are so many beautiful things, in the world that my experience, what I am going to tell them may not be actually, first of all, the right thing anymore, and also my experience also limiting my, views and so on. They should go and explore the world themselves. There are so many good things out there. So that's always, my principle, in raising them. And I totally agree with what Duncan mentioned just now about setting example. I think it's not just to sort of instill a discipline in them, but to also let them appreciate by observing you the value. So you indirectly actually instill in them values, in life. Yeah, like encouraging them to explore different things is something I think they would then share the value of having an open mind, which is very important, for them to develop further in future with things, changing so fast now. What is right today may be wrong tomorrow, and vice versa. So you have to have an open mind. So all these are really very important skills. And going back to the topic, it's really something that educators probably, also, observe and try to practice more.
I think we're out of time, and I want to thank our distinguished panelists. I learned so much from all of you today, and I hope the audience as well, and the questions has been great. And we look forward to future forums like this. I think education is really important, whether we're business leaders or NGO leaders or in the arts or in technology. And I think the future of education is the future of all of us. I think we are all lifelong learners. And the role of museums, the role of institutions is very important in that regards. And again, applaud the work of all of you. And again, thank you all and for giving us the opportunity to have this wonderful discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.